The killers orbited the alien colony a human. Battleship jumped in HFY Space Story **. The Kaler station floated silently above the dying red star, wrapped in quiet shadows. Inside the command room, soft lights blinked across alien control panels. Commander Yavi stood still, his thin silver fingers tapping nervously. His skin normally calm and smooth, now rippled with faint lines of stress. Something was wrong. The station's long-range sensors had picked up energy patterns, small flickers, nothing. Solid, nothing confirmed. But Yavi had seen this before, in past reports, in lost colonies, just before they were never heard from again. "We should send a message," said Officer Trell, voice tight. "We are not fighters," Yavi nodded slowly. "Send one to the homeworld. And send one to the human outpost on G9. There was silence. Trell's eyes widened. "The humans? They are unbalanced?" "They are alive," Yavi replied, "far below the control deck." In one of the dark maintenance tunnels, a man crawled through cables. Grease marked his hands in uniform. His name was Briggs. His job? Keep the plumbing working. Fix broken pipes. Stay out of the way. He had been on the Kaler station for 5 weeks. Most of the Kaler barely spoke to him. They thought he was messy, strange, dangerous. Briggs didn't mind. He liked quiet places. He was working on a vent fan when the station shook just slightly, a tremble like someone had dropped something big on the roof. He looked up, listened. Something scratched at the edge of his hearing. He pulled out a small device from his belt and tapped the screen. Static. Then a short burst of noise, radio chatter. Fast and coded. Human frequency. But wrong tone. Briggs frowned. He stood, wiped his hands, and looked around the dark hallway. Then he whispered, "Here we go." On the command deck, alarms started to ring. Trell ran to the console. "Multiple contacts," he said, voice trembling. They appeared from behind the star. 8 ships. No, 10. More arriving. Yavi's breath caught. The screen filled with dark shapes, long, jagged vessels, painted black and red. Some had spinning blades on the hull. Others had open decks showing metal claws and long tubes that hissed steam. The Drav. They were known only through whispers. Pirates. Killers. Harvesters of life. They didn't talk. They took. The main com screen flashed red, voice deep and cruel, filled. "The room. This station belongs to the Drav. Shut down all defenses. Surrender or be opened." Yavi stood frozen. "We have no defenses." Then another voice came through on a lower local channel. Rough, calm, and human. "Seal the airlocks now." Yavi looked up, confused. Briggs' face appeared on the side monitor, half-shadowed, grease on his cheek, eyes sharp and focused. "Who is this?" Trell asked. "Maintenance," Briggs said. "Trust me, we don't have weapons." Yavi said, "We can't fight them." Briggs smiled faintly. "We don't need weapons. We just need to be meaner." He tapped a screen next to him. Over the station, thick airlock doors slid shut with heavy thuds. Lights flickered, then turned red. Trell jumped. "Why did you change our lighting?" Briggs was already walking through another corridor, checking wall panels. "Red light. Lower visibility for them. Better contrast for me. Also makes the place feel more like a horror show." The Drav ships moved in. The largest vessel, shaped like a spike with engines, slammed a docking claw into the outer hull. Sparks flew. Inside, the Kaler trembled. Briggs knelt near the wall. He ripped open a panel and pulled out wires. He mumbled to himself, "Okay, let's make this hallway." Scream. A minute later, a group of Drav broke through a side door. As soon as they stepped inside, speakers blasted high-pitched static and a looping sound, old Earth music, but twisted, warped, like a broken record. Lights flickered violently. Smoke hissed from the walls. The Drav paused. They looked around. Then, the floor dropped open. 3 of them fell into a waste shaft, vanished into the recycling tanks below. Briggs grinned. "Welcome to my playground." Back on the command deck, Yavi watched in disbelief. "Who is this human?" he whispered. Trell's fingers flew across the screen. "He's listed as an engineer. No combat training." But Briggs wasn't done. He reprogrammed doors to slam shut behind Drav squads, locking them in dark labs filled with volatile chemicals. He rerouted oxygen away from the engineering wing. He rewired the fire suppression system to spray oil instead of foam. He moved like a ghost. The Kaler barely understood what he was doing, and neither did the Drav, until a message arrived on all frequencies. voicehuman.com. Next one. "A view steps through that hatch. I shut down gravity in your lungs." The Drav paused. One Kaler officer whispered. "Is he bluffing?" "Oh," Yavi said, because from somewhere down below they heard a human laugh. And then a metal thud. Something heavy had just dropped. Briggs was just getting started. Briggs moved fast through the dark hallways of the station. The air was tight with heat, lights flickered, and a loud alarm buzzed in the distance. He didn't flinch. He was already behind the next control panel, wires in hand, rerouting power like it was a game he'd played 1,000 times. Up on the command deck, the Kaler were frozen in fear. They've started cutting into the lower science. "Wing," Officer Trell said. His eyes glowed faintly in panic. "We must escape. Our pods are still undamaged." "No," Yavi said, watching the human on the lower screens. "If we run now, they'll hunt us one by one. Whatever this human is doing, it's working. We let him work." Meanwhile, in the lower deck, Drav pirates stepped into a long hallway. It was dark and quiet. Too quiet. They raised their weapon spike rifles and plasma claws, then stepped forward. Suddenly, the doors behind them slammed shut. A thin stream of cold gas hissed from the ceiling. Lights popped on in short flashes. Voice crackled through the intercoms low, steady and unfriendly. "Welcome to Earth hospitality." Then the floor VIBR, AT to dash hard, something roared. A hidden engine Briggs had installed in a waste bin burst open, pushing waves of hot air and dust in every direction. The pirates stumbled, blinded. One screamed as fire spilled from the wall behind him. Briggs watched from a hidden corner, chewing a protein bar. He whispered, "One down." He moved again, crawling through a maintenance shaft, checking motion. Sensors he'd wired into the ceiling panels. One of the lights blinked green. "They're splitting up," he mumbled. "Big mistake." He crawled out into an old storage bay and set up more surprises tripwires, oil slicks, broken cables ready to short circuit. Then he pulled a metal pipe from a shelf and tightened his grip. This one's going to be personal. Back on the command deck, the Kaler listened in to what they could. Strange Earth music kept blasting on open frequencies. But not like before, it was louder now, full of sharp drum beats and strange howls. At first, it scared them. Then they noticed something. Strange, the Drav were reacting to it. They slowed down. Some stopped moving entirely. One pirate ship even pulled back from the docking port, unsure. Yavi turned to Trell. "Is that music?" Trell nodded. "As human battle songs? I think they're weaponizing sound." Yavi stared at the screen where Briggs walked calmly. Through fire and steam, wrench in one hand, a smoke grenade in the other. His body was tired, dirty, sweating, but his eyes were full of focus. "They don't understand him," Yavi whispered. "You're not fighting like prey, he's fighting like something worse." Briggs entered the biolab silently. Drav stood inside, pulling apart a stasis pod. "Hey," Briggs called out. They spun. He was already moving. The smoke grenade hit the floor first, puffing out white fog. Then a flash of sparks flew from the ceiling. The pirates opened fire blindly. But Briggs had already ducked, rolled, and slammed the wrench into the nearest one's leg. It snapped with a sickening crunch. Another pirate roared and charged, but Briggs grabbed a hose and sprayed pressurized coolant right in its face. Ice crystals formed across its visor as the creature fell, twitching. The last one tried to escape, slipping across the oily floor. Briggs threw the wrench. It hit the back of the Drav's helmet. The sound echoed through the lab. The human stood still for a moment, chest rising and falling. His hand was bleeding. He wiped it on his pants and picked the wrench back up. He looked at the camera mounted in the corner. 3 more down, he said, dead serious. Next hallway's ready. The Kaler scientists, who were still awake, sat in silence. One of them, a young tech assistant named Ilan, asked, "Is he the only human here?" "Yes," Yavi said softly. "Then how is he winning?" Yavi didn't answer. He didn't know. Briggs made his way toward the reactor level next. That's where the pirates would go eventually. The core was the station's heart-tits energy, its life, but Briggs had already rigged it. He'd installed dozens of manual controls, rerouted power, set timed failsafes. If the Drav reached it, it would burn them alive before they even touched. The controls. He passed a mirror and paused. His face was filthy, cut, and tired. He stared for a second. Then he smiled. Cold, sideways smile. "Still breathing," muttered. Then he kept moving. Down below in the lower decks, the Drav regrouped. They had lost 5 already. Their leader slammed a claw into the wall. "Find the human," he growled. But the air shifted. Lights dimmed again. And somewhere, through every speaker on the station, came the sound of a metal pipe tapping slowly on steel again and again and again. Briggs was waiting. The Drav were trained hunters. They were used to fear, but only when they caused it. Now they were the ones checking every corner, every vent, every flickering light with shaky hands. This station was supposed to be an easy raid, a simple sweep. No weapons, no guards, no danger. They hadn't planned for a human like Briggs. 3 of them stepped into a hallway that twisted sharply to the left. The lights were low, flashing red. The walls seemed to breathe with smoke and static. One pirate took the lead, gripping his plasma blade. He walked slowly, stepping over wires and broken tiles. Then he saw something, a shape on the ground. Body, Drav armor, burned and bent. Face frozen in horror. Commander 1 whispered, "This is one of ours." Right. The lead pirate bent down to check the body. That's when he heard it tap, tap, tap. The sound of metal on metal. He looked up. Too late, a chain dropped from the ceiling, wrapping around his arm and yanking him upward. His scream echoed through the station. The other 2 panicked, turned to run, then slipped. The floor was coated in a clear gel. One slammed into the wall. The other tried to crawl, but a panel under him opened and dropped him into darkness. Back in the control room, Yavi stood speechless. They were watching it all through hidden cameras. One human was turning their peaceful research station into a nightmare fortress. "He knows where they're going before they do," said Trell, amazed. "He's controlling the flow," Yavi said slowly. "He's guiding them, like animals, into a trap." Meanwhile, Briggs was under the mess hall now, sliding along a tunnel barely big enough to crawl through. He checked his small scanner. 3 more Drav had split off from the main group, exactly what he hoped for. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a strange round object with wires sticking out. A homemade flash bomb, simple but loud. He rolled it into the hallway ahead. Then he spoke softly into the intercom. "Dinner's ready." The Drav heard the voice and raised their weapons. They fired at the wall. Sparks flew. Nothing behind it. Then the bomb went off. A white flash lit the corridor. The sound was like thunder in a steel can. All 3 Drav screamed. One dropped his weapon. Another stumbled back into a pipe that sprayed hot steam directly into his chest plate. Briggs dropped from the ceiling behind them. 1 hit. 2 hits. Done. He dragged the bodies into a storage closet and sealed the door. 8 down, he said. Too many left. The Drav were catching on. Their leader, a tall one with yellow skin and glowing red eyes, had seen the traps. "I sent a new command. Stop splitting up. Move together. Hunt as one." They started using motion trackers, cutting open walls, avoiding vents and weak tiles. Briggs saw it too. "Smart lizards," he muttered. "Time to get smarter." Hey. He pulled out a thick tablet and began typing quickly. He rerouted the station's AI system, just a basic model meant to help scientists find lab files. But now, it had a new job. It was about to become the eyes and ears of a human ghost. Back in the command room, Yavi watched in awe. The screens began to change. One showed blueprints of the station with blinking dots draw locations. Another showed heat maps. And on a third screen, a live camera of Briggs working. He's mapping them, said Trell. He's controlling. The maze, Yavi whispered. The Drav pushed forward, now moving as one. They entered the central lab, where the main power lines met. Briggs had cleared this room on purpose. No smoke. No music. No traps. The pirates paused. Nothing, they stepped in. Then the doors slammed shut. Lights blasted full white. Gas poured from the walls, pure helium, non-lethal to most, but it changed their voices, made them squeak, made them sound like children. Then, the speakers crackled. Briggs' voice came through. You still think you're the hunters? The Drav leader snarled. Come out and fight. Oh, I will, Briggs said, just not the way you expect. The floor under them began to rise. Slowly, the whole lab was a lift. It started climbing toward the top deck, the coldest part of the station, near the outer shell. The gas was gone. The lights turned red again. And through the rising shaft, more sounds played, snarls, growls. Twisted echoes of Drav voices from earlier. They were hearing themselves scream by the time the lift stopped. Two had collapsed. The rest stepped into the cold hallway, breathing hard, and then they saw it. On the wall in front of them, smeared in coolant, were human words. Run boss EK1 Drav turned, but the hallway behind them was now concealed by steel. Then, a door ahead slid open. Briggs stood there, holding something behind his back. Time for round 2, he said, and stepped forward. The hallway was narrow. Cold and quiet except for Briggs' slow footsteps. The drow stared at him, unsure. He stood there, calm and alone, holding something behind his back. His face was dirty, his knuckles bruised, and his voice steady. I warned you, he said. Now it's personal. The Drav leader growled and charged. The others followed, claws ready, weapons glowing. They expected the human to run. He didn't. Briggs stepped sideways and dropped a metal ball on the floor. A flash of light and a loud bang filled the hallway. The Drav were blinded again. One tripped over a fallen pipe and hit the wall hard. Another fired wildly and struck. His own teammate. Briggs ran into a side room and locked the door. He pressed a button. The hallway behind him sealed shut with a heavy thud. From the command deck, Yavi watched it all. He's not just using strength, Trell whispered. He's making them turn on each other. Yavi nodded slowly. He's breaking their minds before he breaks their bodies. Briggs leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His side was bleeding. He wrapped it quickly with torn cloth and got. Back up. No time to rest, he muttered. He looked at a small tablet he had taken from the lab. The AI showed blinking red dot Drav locations. Only 7 were left now. 7 out of 20. They had sent 20 armed killers to take a quiet station. Now most were gone. The rest were angry and afraid. In the central hub of the station, the Drav gathered again. The leader was furious. He slammed his clawed fist into a wall. This is no normal human, shouted. This is a shadow, a trickster. We must retreat, said one of his soldiers, shaking. This place is cursed. No, the leader growled. He is one. We are many. We kill him now. Briggs watched from a vent above, listening. He smiled. Let's see how brave you really are. He crawled back through the tunnel system, dropping small traps behind him, sound sensors, wire trips, and smoke bombs. He moved fast, ignoring the pain in his side. He reached the cryobio room filled with frozen specimens and test subjects. The temperature was freezing. Frost covered the walls. The perfect place for a trap. Briggs opened every single cryo door and set the timers. When the Drav entered, they'd think prisoners were being released. Chaos would follow. He planted speakers in the walls and connected them to the Drav's own battle recording screams. Orders and roars from earlier attacks. They'll think ghosts are talking to them, he whispered. The Kaler on the bridge watched it all in disbelief. Yavi stood still, arms crossed. "This man is a force of nature," he said. "I've never seen strategy like this." Trell nodded. "He's using fear as a weapon. He's making the Drav feel what their victims feel." Briggs checked the System 5 drive had split off. They were heading to the cryo bay. Just as planned, he turned and sprinted for the hydrolab. He had one more trick to set. In the cryo bay, the Drav entered slowly. The room was full of mist and strange shapes. One of the frozen pods opened with a hiss, nothing inside. Then another opened, and another one of the Dravs shouted, "They're loose." Then came the sounds, screams, footfalls, metal slamming. They aimed their weapons and fired into the fog, but there was no one there. It was all sound and shadows. Suddenly, one of the floor panels gave way. A Drav fell down into a water tank below. Screaming, the others panicked. That's when the ceiling burst open and Briggs dropped down. He didn't say a word. He moved like lightning, swinging a metal rod wrapped in wires. One Drav fired, missed. Briggs struck hard, the rod crackling with energy. Another pirate grabbed him. But Briggs pulled a blade from his boot and stabbed fast. The third tried to escape. Briggs threw a freezing gas canister. It exploded near the door, freezing it shut and trapping the last one inside. Back in the command room, Avi turned to Trell. "There are 4 Drav left," he said. "That's all. Is it enough to escape?" Trell asked. Yavi shook his head. "They're not trying to escape anymore. They're just trying to survive." In the hydro lab, Briggs opened a pipe and let water pour into the floor. Then he added a high-voltage cable to the mix. He waited in the shadows. Soon, the last 4 Drav would come. When they did, they'd walk right into the storm. He checked his side, still bleeding. Didn't care. "Come on," he whispered. "I'm not done yet." The remaining 4 Drav were close now. Briggs could hear them stomping through the lower halls. Their voices were sharp and angry. The lead one was the captain. His name was Varric, and his armor was thicker than the others. His claws were longer, and his pride was bigger. He had never lost a hunt before. But today, something was different. They were walking slower now, watching every step. 2 of them held scanners, but they were useless in the twisted system Briggs had built. The other 2 carried plasma rifles that hummed quietly. Varric snarled, "The human is weak. He bleeds. He tires. He must be close." They turned the corner. Into the hydro lab, the room was dim and wet. Pipes dripped. Low mist floated across the floor. Everything smelled like metal and water. Varric raised his hand to signal stop. "Something's wrong," he said. He stepped forward, then paused. The floor was damp. A pool of water stretched across the metal panels, behind a tall tank. Briggs watched. He was hurt. His leg was stiff, his left hand shook, but his eyes stayed sharp. His trap was ready. The cable hung above the water, still loose. All he needed was one good moment. The Drav spread out. One scanned the far wall, another opened a locker. Varric walked right into the middle of the room. Then he said loudly, "I am not like the others. I am the one who kills the killers. Come out and die, human." Briggs didn't answer. He waited. The third Drav stepped close to the center. His foot touched a pressure plate. There was a loud click, and the cable dropped straight. Into the water, blue light exploded across the room. A crackling wave of electricity ran over the floor like fire on oil. The smallest Drav fell first, screaming. His weapon dropped, his body shaking. The second tried to jump but slipped and landed in the water. The shock fried his armor. Varric roared in rage, threw his gun aside and charged toward the tank Briggs hid behind. Briggs moved fast. He rolled to the left, barely missing a claw swipe. His foot caught a crate and he stumbled. Varric tackled him hard. Both hit the ground. The captain was heavy, strong. Briggs grabbed a wrench, but it flew from his hand when Varric slammed him. "Down. You hide in shadows." Varric growled. "You trap, you trick, but you are weak underneath." Briggs choked, pushing back with one arm. He reached for something, anything. His hand found a broken pipe. Steam hissed from it. He turned it fast. The steam blasted into Varric's face. The Drav roared in pain, falling back. Briggs rolled away, coughing. His ribs hurt. His arms burned. But he stood up. "Funny," he said, gasping. "You talk like a king but bleed like the rest." Varric lunged again. Briggs grabbed a power saw from the workbench and swung it. The blade sparked as it hit the captain's armor. Varric screamed and kicked Briggs into the wall. He didn't get up this time. He just reached into his jacket and pressed a small button on his belt. Behind Varric, a pipe exploded. Boiling water shot into the air. The force knocked the captain off his feet, pulled himself up, barely breathing. He limped over to a control panel and shut the door. Only one Drav was left now in the hallway above. Yavi stared at the screens. "He did it," Trell whispered. "He took down all of them." Yavi shook his head. "Not yet. Look. One more. Cigna. Moving through the medical wing. Fast." Briggs looked up at a screen in the hydro lab. He saw it too. He cursed softly and began to move again. But he wasn't fast enough. Alarms started to blare. Bright red lights flashed across the station. Then a voice came through the system, deep and loud. It was Varrock, bleeding and broken, but still alive. "This station will burn," he growled. "Even if I die, I have left a gift. Toxin in the air. You'll all choke." Yavi froze. "A bioweapon." Trell's screen confirmed it. "Spreading through the vents. The whole station is filling with poison." Briggs reached the central controls. His hands shook as he opened the main file. The countdown had begun. 10 minutes, that's all he had. Then everything would die. He looked up. No fear, no panic. Just focus. He opened the emergency comm channel. "This is Briggs," he said. "Shutting down life support. You've got 5 minutes to find oxygen masks. After that, no air, no toxin either." "Wait," Yavi shouted. "You'll die too." Briggs smiled softly. "Better me than everyone." Then he reached for the override, and the lights began to dim. Asterisk. The lights on the station went dark one by one. Fans stopped spinning. Screens went black. The soft hum of machines fell silent. For a moment, the entire station seemed to stop breathing. In the command room, Yavi and Trell scrambled to pull out the emergency oxygen masks. Other Kaler scientists nearby were coughing, gasping, trying to stay calm as the poison spread through the air. Then came a cold wind. It rushed through the halls like a ghost-an, invisible killer. Briggs sat alone at the main reactor controls, surrounded by steam and blinking lights, as the override had shut down life support. The poison gas would stop spreading now. So would everything else sare. Water, heat. He leaned back in the chair, sweating, his breath shallow. "All right," he whispered. "One more job." He looked at the station's orbital controls. The screen flickered, then came back online, just barely. "Manual mode only." Briggs smiled through cracked lips. "Let's move." We tapped a few keys. Outside, the great station gave a deep groan as thrusters fired. Slowly it began to turn. In space, the dropship was still docked on the outer hull, its engine, blinking red, its weapons charged. The pirate captain, Varric, was badly wounded, lying in a dark corner of the docking bridge. He saw the movement on the small screen in front of him. "What?" he hissed. He sat up, blood dripping from his mouth. The station was rotating toward his own ship. No. Back inside, Briggs kept working. His eyes were red. He could barely stand now. But he wasn't going to stop. He had one last trap to spring. He activated the station's broken fuel tank, just enough left inside to make a big noise. Then he armed the detachment system on the dropship. "This'll be the loudest goodbye I've ever given." On the command deck, Yavi managed to pull himself upright. He could see the rotation now, too. The station was slowly drifting into a collision course with the pirate vessel. "He's ramming them," Trell whispered. Yavi stared at the screen. "He's turning the station into a weapon." The remaining Kaler clung to the walls, watching with wide eyes. Human had given up air, given up safety, and now he was giving up his own life to stop the last enemy. Briggs laughed once, just a short, tired laugh. He could feel his heartbeat slowing. The oxygen was almost gone. Then the Drav captain's voice came through a cracked speaker. Human Varak growled. You would kill yourself for them? For aliens you just met? Briggs pressed the come button. You ever been to Earth? Silence. We don't give up, Lizard. You're mad, Varak spat. Maybe Briggs whispered. But you're about to be a lot more dead than I am. The collision timer began flashing. 2 o'clock. 1:59. 1:58. Back on the command deck, Yavi turned to Trill. We have to get out. But how? Trill cried. Escape pods are gone. Ships are gone. Yavi's eyes lit up. Not all. He pointed to the small maintenance shuttle in Bay 3. It was old. It's half broken. Meant only for repairs, but it had oxygen and short-range flight. Help the others. We leave now. In the reactor room, Briggs leaned against the wall. His body ached, his vision blurred, but his hands stayed firm on the final switch. 1 minute left. The Drav captain dragged himself toward the exit of his ship. His crew was dead, his systems were fried, and now a station was flying right into him. He tried to pull free from the dock. Briggs had locked it. Varak screamed. Too late. The great research station smashed into the Drav ship. A huge blast of fire and broken metal exploded into space. A wave of light shot out, lighting up the black void for miles. In the shuttle, Yavi looked back through the window. The station was gone. Fire drifted through the stars like glowing dust. The wreck of the Drav ship spun slowly into darkness. He did it, Trell said, voice shaking. He stopped them. Yavi's hands trembled, at the cost of himself. But then Trell gasped. Wait. Look. A small object broke from the flames of pod, tiny and half-damaged, tumbling. Through space, Yavi leaned closer. Is that? The pod's beacon blinked once, then again. Then a weak signal came through. This is Briggs, the voice said, coughing. I'd like a ride now, please. The Kaler shuttle turned quickly. Inside the escape pod, Briggs lay flat, covered in burns and bruises, but alive. He grinned, barely conscious. Guess I'm not done yet. The Kaler shuttle docked beside the small, spinning pod. Its hull was scorched, the signal weak, and its fuel long gone. But somehow, the human inside had survived. When the hatch opened, Yavi and Trell saw him Briggs slumped in the seat. Barely breathing, one eye swollen shut, blood dried on his lips. But he smiled when he saw them. Took you long enough, he whispered. They pulled him out gently. Clur scientists worked quickly, wrapping him in warming blankets, giving him oxygen. His hand gripped Yavi's wrist with surprising strength. You good? Yavi asked softly. Briggs nodded. Still ugly? Still alive? The shuttle turned toward the nearby outpost moon. A quiet Kaler station orbited their backup facility, never meant for use. Oh. It became a place of healing, of memory. News of the Drav attack spread fast across the galaxy. And even faster spread the story of one human alone who fought back and won. They called it the station that roared. Ships came, some to honor the dead, others just to hear the story. Messages arrived from peaceful alien species who had once feared the Drav. They had heard the human voice echo through space, challenging death, and that voice had given them hope. Back on the moon base, Briggs lay in a medical bed, hooked to. Tubes Kaler nurses hovered around him, their hands glowing with gentle light. He didn't like all the attention. He said it tickled Commander Yavi sat beside him, holding a small metal badge. This belonged to our lead scientist, Yavi said. He didn't make it. He would have liked you. You reminded him of an old war poem from our world. Briggs raised an eyebrow. Didn't think you all had war poems. Yavi smiled sadly. We stopped writing them long ago. But maybe. We need to remember them now. Briggs looked away, quiet for a moment. They didn't stand a chance, he finally said. Those things weren't just pirates. They were monsters, but you stopped them. Briggs shook his head slowly. No, I scared them. That's different. They'll be back one day with more ships, smarter plans. Yavi nodded. Then we'll be ready. Together. A week later, the humans arrived, 2 sleek Earth defense vessels, armed with the newest tech. Soldiers, medics, and commanders all. came to see the man who had made a Drav warship explode using nothing but a broken station, a wrench, and pure guts. Briggs hated the metals. He didn't even attend the first ceremony. He stayed in bed, eating soup, and asking if the station cafeteria had been rebuilt yet. But when the second ship arrived, something changed. A group of alien diplomats walked off. Not Kaler, humans. Others, the Vel, covered in crystal. It's the Morn, small and furry with bright orange eyes. Even a Sentai delegate, tall and insect-like, stood in the room. All of them had one thing in common. They'd lost people to the Drav before. Now they had a reason to speak. Briggs sat in a chair, his legs still stiff, watching the meeting begin. Yavi stood beside him, whispering updates. They want to form an alliance, Yavi said. A new pact. One where no species has to fight alone again. Briggs nodded. About time. The alien leaders looked toward him. One by one, they each stepped forward. They placed something small in front of him, a piece of fur, a glowing crystal, a curved blade, even a tiny map carved from bone. Each one was a gift. Symbol of thanks. Silent promise. Briggs didn't know what to say, so he just said, "Let's make sure no kid ever has to see what I saw on that station." Everyone in the room bowed their heads in agreement. Outside, the stars were peaceful again, but the silence didn't last long. Back on the far edge of the galaxy, Drav survivors told stories in hushed tones about the human who turned a station into a death trap. They no longer charged into peaceful outposts. They scanned every new structure for signs of humans. One whisper kept spreading through their dark ships. If a human is aboard, walk away. At the moon base, Briggs walked the hallways slowly now, his steps still stiff but getting stronger. He refused body upgrades. Said, "I want every limp and scar. I earned them." Yavi joined him one evening on the observation deck. The stars shimmered across the black sky. Earth's moon glowed in the distance, and nearby floated a new structure, half Kaler design, half human metal. It was a new kind of station, a warning beacon, a meeting place, a shield. Briggs looked at it and smiled. "Looks solid." He said, "It's built to last," Yavi replied. There was a long pause. Then Briggs chuckled. "Next time the Drav come back, maybe I'll just hand them a wrench and say, 'Good luck, Yavi.'" Smiled softly. "They'll need it." And so, under a sky full of stars, a new peace began born, not from treaties or speeches, but from a single man who refused to be prey. The galaxy would never forget the station that fought back, and it would never forget the human who made it happen.